Alright everybody, Kenny Schaefer again with OFIT. I'm your Dolce Diet Coach for Nutrition Counseling, and I have another recipe for you this week. It is another breakfast recipe, but this is the fun one. Typically on the weekends, we all enjoy our eggs, our pancakes, waffles, things of that sort. So this week, by request, I'm going to do our Pitbull Pancakes, and more importantly, the fresh berry syrup. So the pancakes can be a little bit of a hassle when you're first making them. The brown rice flour does cook different than traditional flour. Personally, I like waffles more, so I just use my waffle iron, and I don't really have much of an issue with them burning. Just be aware of that. It takes a little bit more patience to cook. They come out incredibly fluffy, very, very tasty. The fresh berry syrup is pretty simple to make as well. It's just a little time intensive, and it gets you away from having to use syrup or any of the other extra crazy amounts of sugar that we would traditionally be putting on these items. One of my personal favorites to enjoy when I have the time. Obviously, anytime you're making pancakes or waffles, it is a little more time intensive in the kitchen. But this is probably one of the most popular breakfast recipes that we have, made famous by none other than Tiago the Pitbull Alves. So no further ado, let me get into cracking this recipe together and teaching you how to make it. Alright everybody, have all the ingredients I need here for the pancakes. So in our Dolce Diet cookbook, you're not going to find the recipe to how to make the pancakes or waffles. That's going to be on the Pamela's pancake mix. However, the recipe is a cup of the brown rice flour, a 3/4 cup of water, 1 egg, and a teaspoon of grapeseed oil. Now I've already got my waffle iron hot, and I went ahead and put my cup of flour in here. So we'll go ahead and get all this together. Throw in the water. And then we'll get to the oil here in a second. So this is another one of those recipes that you can kind of play around with as far as flavor goes. Start adding a little bit of cinnamon, some vanilla extract or almond extract, things of that sort if you want to spruce up the flavor. The oil is a crucial part of this dish to help keep the pancakes or waffles from sticking. Also note that they are a little watery when you first start mixing them, so you actually want to let them settle for a moment before you start cooking. And you'll see what I mean here. So you kind of want to stir it up and then kind of let everything meld together. So while I'm letting it sit, I'm going to shuffle over to the stove and go ahead and get the berry syrup fresh prepared and get that kind of in the motion of going as well. So obviously if you have a blender, you can always use that route as well. I just don't find the extra mess in dishes is worth it, and I can just blend it with a fork. Alright, so you can see how this is real thin. It's just kind of how it stays. It doesn't get much thicker than that, but it will thicken up a little bit. So we'll walk over to the stove here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my skillet on. So when we first get it to it, we're going to go like a low-medium heat. So we're going to be looking for a little bit more of closer to medium. Just letting this come up to heat. And we will need a lid as well to keep this covered. So it calls for 4 ounces of water or a 1/2 cup of water, which I have here. So I already kind of had this going to save us all a little bit of time. And it's a cup of strawberries and a cup of blueberries. Something else I should have mentioned is our Pitbull pancake recipe, because we can't really break it down into quarters, is actually serving for about 4 to 6 people if you're making it to traditional like 4-inch pancake that's supposed to be. So this is the start of the syrup. You're basically going to let it sit here and simmer until the berries get soft. So I'm using frozen berries, so it might take a little bit longer for me. If you're using fresh berries, obviously it's going to go a little faster. So what's going to happen as these begin to simmer and wilt and soften, we're going to turn the heat down to a low simmer, allow the fruit to continually get softer and softer, and then you're going to want to start mashing it down with a spatula, or I like to use like a potato masher and really kind of break up the fruit. And then if you want, you can throw in the teaspoon of agave that our recipe calls for. Again, I'm not a fan of getting any excessive sugar that I don't need, and honestly I think the strawberries and blueberries are already pretty sweet on their own. So let's slide back over to the pancakes. A little thicker now. I mean, that was only maybe a minute, but you can see that it's kind of congealing a little more. So this is going to sizzle. I've had it on for a little bit, so don't mind me. Be sure if you're using waffle iron, don't overflow it. That's really about all it takes. Let this sucker close. And now the cooking process begins. So, real traditional, easy breakfast, guys. We'll slide back over to the berries. I like to stir these suckers around a little bit so the ones on the top are kind of getting warm. And while this is going to take a little bit of time, so I don't have a super long video, I'm going to go ahead and cut the camera off, and when we get down to a little more of a simmer, I'll touch back bases with you guys. Alright guys, so I want to give you a little look. I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat down. But as you can see, the berries are starting to get a little bit of a simmer or boil to them. They're obviously pretty soft. And you can see there's going to be quite a bit of syrup. So this is where you can start mashing it down. Just takes a little bit of time and patience. So this is the reason I like to use the potato masher, because I don't feel like I can actually smash the berries as well to really make it a nice thick syrup. This is where I also like to leave the lid off and start allowing things to evaporate. So I use the spatula at the beginning just to get the larger items down. Oh man, it smells good. Here, and then this is where I'll start kind of coming through, really smash it down. This isn't something you have to do. This is just something I found that works for me, something I like to do. So, we'll go ahead and pull our waffles off, get another round of one of those going, and let that continue to reduce down. So this should be ready. These are the other two I did. Came out a little shorter. There we go. Give this another little stir. Those are going to overflow a little bit. It's okay. And so traditionally it's like 2 and 2. Coming back, and now you're going to see where the syrup is starting to reduce down. So you can go back through here. See how it's beginning to thicken up? Again, it's all just in that motion of crushing the berries. Personal preference. And I do like to leave the lid off again because obviously the more steam it's leaving, less moisture. Cool. So you can cook this down a little more if you want. It's your preference. It doesn't really get much thicker than that. You can obviously reduce the water if you want it to be like super thick. Yeah, I'm making a mess. It's just usually what happens on pancake day. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this over. Make sure I turn the stove off, and we're good to go. So you can just drizzle this right on top, or you can even spoon it out. Totally up to you. Made a little mess again, but as you can see, some delicious waffles for you guys. So again, as always, I hope you enjoyed this. Made a little more of a mess today than normal. Again, I love the feedback. ofit.com, OH_FITT for Instagram. I'll be putting up weekly recipes, guys, so please subscribe. Let me know what you want to see. This was done by request. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.